All right, welcome into another edition of Carps Corner. And we got some NFL draft preview stuff going on. We'll preview here the first round of the NFL draft, get into a little bit of that, where guys could potentially land, how that would look. The big three here that'll be going off the board on Thursday night: CJ Stroud, Paris Johnson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. Take a look at them. DeJuan Jones could possibly sneak into the first round. I think people thought that more a month ago, maybe not happening now. We'll get into all that. Got some college football rule changes, some portal news, a little good, bad, and different for Ohio State there as well as we dive into all that stuff. But first of all, I want to start off with the NFL draft preview and CJ Stroud. And, I would have thought 3 months ago that he was going to be the number one overall pick. Worst case, probably the second overall pick. Someone would trade up to want to be able to take him. Because I believe this about quarterbacks. When you're evaluating the quarterback position in the NFL, the majority of your evaluation is going to come off tape and it's going to come off film. And all that is going to be done by the last game that you play in college football. And then, so with that, unless there's some glaring issue off the field, intelligence issue, commitment issue, massive injury concerns, watching a guy throw at pro day is really just going to confirm what you already know about his ability to get the ball out of his hand, because it's not going to tell you about his accuracy, his velocity, all those other things more than the film is going to tell you. If a guy can't throw with routes on air in college, then you know what? You're not going to draft him at the next level in the NFL anyway. They should be, all those balls should be on point, and you usually see that on top prospects. So it goes back to the film. And CJ Stroud is some of the best film you're going to find. Bryce Young's is right there, might even be a tad bit better. I'm not sure. I'm not going to debate that. But what is amazing to me is you've got guys, like Will Levis and Anthony Richardson now, who, and this is even an Ohio State thing. I don't understand, who guys who have elite traits, elite abilities, physical traits out the wazoo. And I know they've had inconsistency in coaching and quarterback or offensive coordinators and systems and all that, but you have to be able to elevate the guys around you. And I watched Anthony Richardson, who made some great plays, was very sporadic. I watched Will Levis make some great players, but never was consistent for that stretch of games that you look for. And I get it. CJ Stroud had a better offense and better receivers around him. But I never watched either one of those two guys elevate anybody. Hendon Hooker, I watched him go elevate and play great in big moments. And so those two guys, while Will Levis can throw the football from a knee and hit the crossbar 50 yards away, and Anthony Richardson can run around, do backflips, and has a whip, a total cannon for an arm too. Like, I need to watch you be able to have success on the field playing the game of football. And I just haven't seen that. And so that's a little bit of my rant, I guess, as you could say, as we start off talking about quarterbacks and where they go. Because now I look at CJ Stroud. And I do believe some of the smoke. I don't know if the Texans are going to take him or not at 2. They have 2 picks. I mean, if they take him at 2, do they take Jackson at 12? Maybe. I'm not sure. Cards aren't taking a quarterback. Colts are. I mean, if they like Will Levis, I get it. Maybe they're putting that out so they can get Anthony Richardson. You look at their offensive coordinator coming from Philly. He has Jalen Hurts. There's a lot of similar traits there between those two guys physically with Anthony Richardson, but I don't know. There's obviously the upside, but I don't know if you're going to be able to capture that upside, how long it will take, the consistency piece. There's just a lot there to potentially unpack with it. Seattle, they've got Geno. Do you like CJ there? I think it's a pretty stable situation. Lions, that could be another place where they could take a quarterback, and they've got 2 opportunities. They've got 18, which there could be, I think Hendon Hooker could be available there. I think either Levis or potentially Anthony Richardson could be, or even if they're available at 12 or 13, do you trade up if you're the Titans with your second, or the Lions with your second pick? Raiders could maybe take someone, but I don't know if they do, since they have Jimmy. He could be a bridge. If you see the guy you like that ultimately fell there, then I think you take CJ. Bears already have another Ohio State quarterback. Eagles aren't taking a quarterback. Titans, maybe. And maybe Tennessee trades up. They have Malik Willis. They have Ryan Tannehill, 2 athletic guys. Do they go with a guy who's athletic, more of the Anthony Richardson, maybe a Will Levis, or would they potentially want to get CJ if he's there, or would they trade up? But the reality is, then you get to the Texans' second pick. And I think CJ will be off the board in the top 10. I'd like to believe in the top 5, but I wanted to look around and say, where are teams that are within striking distance that they could go up, and it wouldn't be an obscene amount of draft capital to go get him. And I think those teams make sense. A lot of them, because they're in the top 12, 13. Packers have Love. They're not going to move from there, at least not to get a quarterback. So really the top 12 teams, they could go up unless somebody wants to just give a huge ransom, assuming maybe CJ falls a little bit or one of the guys they like. I think CJ is right there with Bryce Young. I think it's a preference thing of whether you want a quarterback who can check all the boxes physically or a guy that's done it on the elite stage really well for 2 years. And CJ's done that too. But Bryce Young, you meet him, he's captivating. He has everything. He's just a small human being. And so that comes down to kind of, what flavor of ice cream do you like best? Some people may like mint chocolate chip. Someone may like cookie dough. Someone may like chocolate, whatever it is. It just comes down to preference at that point. Y'all like ice cream. Everybody wants some. But what type and what style, what flavor, and how do you want that position to be played? And so that's how I look at those two guys. But the other guys, it's hey, can we build a system around them? How's that going to look? And what are we ultimately going to do? Because then you look at, the next guy who I think will come off the board, Paris Johnson Jr. I think there's a number of teams you could take him. People have thrown out the Bears, him protecting CJ at 9. Philadelphia is pretty set at offensive line. Tennessee, there could be some movement there. Green Bay, they're getting a little older on the offensive line. The Jets appear to be pretty set. Mekhi Becton's pretty good, but I mean, you never truly know if you have a guy who you value really high and have him up there. But I believe that Paris Johnson will be off the board. I'm guessing by 24 at the latest. I'm thinking probably lower end of the top 10, probably teens, but in the low to mid 20s, I would say will be his fall spot. I do not believe Paris will fall any more than that. And then you get to Jackson Smith and Jigba. And he may be the only wide receiver in the first round. People like Jordan Addison a lot, Mingo out of Ole Miss. He's another guy that you could see floating around. But usually in the past handful of drafts, you felt like there's been, at least 3, 4, sometimes 5 or 6 wide receivers taken in the top 40 picks. I don't know if that's going to be the case. Maybe as you get down towards the end of the first round, top of the second, you could see it that second day. But I just don't see it. I think Jackson will probably go in the teens to 20s, but I'm just trying to figure out exactly where. The guys I talk to, people love him. He's a great player, but, I don't know if he's truly an elite outside guy. He can play outside and be really good, but does a lot of his best work inside. But that's like saying, I like Cooper Kupp, but I wouldn't want to draft Cooper Kupp, even though he's an all-pro. Does a ton of work inside. He can get it done outside, but the way you move guys around and everything, it's not how it used to traditionally be. So the game has changed a lot from how you play it. So you don't necessarily maybe have that 1A alpha that you put at the X receiver position, whereas where the best guy always goes, and he just goes out there and locks it down, and that's his spot. Great coaches move their players around. And so there's a number of spots you could see. I mentioned, Jackson's the Texans. They need some playmakers. They're void there. Pittsburgh just traded for Allen Robinson. There's a number of places. I don't know if Seattle values receiver enough to potentially put him in there. The Ravens, they just signed Odell Beckham Jr. But there's, there's a number of teams that you could see liking him somewhere in the middle, potentially right there with what they're able to do. And there might even be some movement and some trades with that. So you've got that going. And then I mentioned DeJuan Jones. I think there was a time he could have gotten in the first round. He's a huge human. He has worked his butt to get down to 360 to start the season. I don't know if he's 360 anymore. So when you take some of those visits and you're traveling a lot, your weight can creep, and that can be a concern for teams. And he's not a left tackle, he's right. But I think DeJuan Jones will be a heck of a right tackle, but he'll be, I think, super early on Friday. But hopefully I'll be able to get another show out Friday morning talking about the first round and preparing you for the second. That's the goal. We'll see if it ultimately happens. I got a lot of stuff going on Friday, but I want to try to get that done for the folks. Some college football rules changes that happened. And these were proposed a while ago. No consecutive timeouts, penalties between at the end of the first quarter and third quarter, won't have an untimed down. They'll just carry over to the second and fourth quarter like they do in the NFL. The big one is they're not going to stop the clock after first downs until the final 2 minutes. And they had no stopping the clock, I believe, after incompletions, I want to say, as well. They had some stuff that they wanted to put some big things in there. But the no stop after first downs, I don't have a problem with because they're stopping at 2 minutes. I want to see the college game remain different than the pro game and not just be NFL light. I like the wider hashes. I like that the rules are a little bit different. I like that you can do some things creatively on special teams. And I like the fact that you have more time to get back in a game with clock stoppages. I don't need them all game. We can cut out 6 to 10 plays or so. But I do like it, the fact that, hey, within 2 minutes, you still have a way to be able to get back in the game, even if you're a team that runs the football a lot and maybe isn't a high potent passing attack, because you'll have the ability to stop it on first downs as well as timeouts and getting out of bounds. Some transfer portal stuff. And we'll throw this up here. Sonny Styles, elite player, played 20 snaps or so against Georgia in the Peach Bowl. Looked really good this spring. I mean, he's what you draw up when you draw a football player, 6'3", heck, he might be 6'4", maybe taller than me, 225 pounds, says 220, probably 225, can run, do everything. Elite, very heady kid, checks all the boxes that you're looking for. His older brother, Lorenzo, receiver at Notre Dame, really wanted to play receiver coming out. Other people looked at him as more of a defensive back. So he goes to Notre Dame and plays receiver. He has entered the transfer portal. And apparently now he's open to playing defensive back again. I don't know if this is someone, they're both Pick Central guys. Obviously, they've got the lineage here with their dad. Sonny's on the team. I don't know if that's someone that Ohio State goes after or not. Ryan talked about being very selective in the portal. They're very thin at corner. The culture already. You know what he's about. You know that they do a good job at Notre Dame with Marcus Freeman, but you know the family. There's ties there. All that stuff makes sense, and the boxes are checked. So I'm not saying that he's going to come to Ohio State, and maybe they don't even have room for him scholarship-wise. And, they want to make sure you're getting young guys on the field. I get all that, but that's just something interesting. Just kind of monitor this summer as the portal's hanging out there, as he's slid in there to kind of see ultimately what happens with him. And then one guy leaving Ohio State, and you had to ultimately see this coming, where the receiving room is really crowded. You've got the three big guys at the top. You've got Marvin, you've got Julian, and you got Emeka. Jaden Ballard played really well this spring. Xavier Johnson's been like a Swiss Army knife. Now I know he got nicked up a little bit at the end of the year in spring ball and couldn't finish, but he's playing slot, he's playing H-back, moving around, running back during the season and the playoff. I mean, doing everything. So you got 5 really good guys. You got Carnell Tate pushing, you got young receivers pushing. So you've got that class they brought in last year. I call it getting pinched, that are really good players. And if you get an injury and you're not really available, it's hard to kind of stake your claim and prove to people that you belong. And with that, Caleb Burton, 4-star guy, really highly touted, recruited player, got injured, really couldn't probably establish a foothold. And you start looking around and you see the writing on the wall and thinking, my goodness, how am I supposed to be able to compete here? They've got a lot of guys ahead of me that are going to be playing, guys that are behind me that are pushing. I might get squeezed, get pinched out. And you have real conversations. One of the great things, Brian Hartline, I talked to him about this. He has zone receivers rate the room. How good did you rate everybody in here, top to bottom? How good are you guys every week or every couple weeks, whatever it is? So it's not just his opinion, it's the opinion of your peer group. So everybody understands if you're down that list and you're not working your way up it, that's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. And so you think, hey, maybe there's another spot. I've taught you well. You've worked hard. Maybe you've been injured, whatever it is. But you've got that opportunity then to go play elsewhere. So Caleb Burton, wide receiver, getting in the portal, open up a spot for someone else. And frankly, they've got so many young players. And like I said, Carnell Tate's going to get on the field this year anyway. He's a heck of a player at receiver, number 17. So excited about him. Yeah, short show tonight. We'll get into some of the other guys. Dwan, Zach Harrison, Whippler, Hickman, Cam Brown, and see where some of these other guys potentially could be going, and then recap where some of the guys went last night. But short show, was wanting to get some stuff out there, make sure we had something to preview the draft, and so you'd be prepared while touching on a couple other topics and making sure that we know where everybody's at in the portal. So thank you for tuning in. keep getting you more content the best I can. It's Carps Corner. Like, subscribe, share, comments, and I might even do a mailbag here early next week to kind of get some conversation flowing as well. So thank you for tuning in, and talk soon.